What's up and welcome to another live unboxing review with GizmoSlipTech. Today we're taking a look at the Asus Strix Scar 16. This was my #1 rated laptop at the beginning of the year, and I think it's going to be freaking awesome. I have had some hands-on time with it. I did just pair it up against the Zephyrus Duo 16, one of the other top gaming laptops that features the Ryzen 9 7945HX, and I did a bunch of CPU comparison benchmarks with this Scar 16 yesterday. So check my live stream feed if you want to check that out, and be sure to give this live stream a like if you're up for this content, you like this kind of content, and if you want to see more of this kind of content. And do consider subscribing if you want to see detailed laptop live stream videos, because if you subscribe and go for notifications, then you can come in to the live stream and ask questions and all of that while we're doing this live. So without further ado, let's dive into this laptop. We're going to talk about the specs. We're going to talk about what's inside. We're going to take the bottom of this chassis off, and we're going to see what the actual internals look like, the internal cooling solution. We're going to do a display test. We're going to do a ton of benchmarks. We're going to try a bunch of different things. We're going to undervolt this thing. We're going to overclock this guy. We got a whole bunch planned for today. Hopefully everything goes well today. What's up, City? Welcome to the stream. I see a bunch of people hopping onto the live stream. That's all excellent. I can't wait. Like I said, this was my #1 rated laptop for the year. At the beginning of my initial top 10 laptops to look at, this was my top most interesting laptop to me, mainly. I mean, there's a few different reasons, but let's dive into it. I've got a specs sheet here. Let me pull up the spec sheet. All right, so here's the Scar 16. It is the price of $36.99, not $35.99. We've got an i9-13980HX in this guy, DDR5 4800, RAM with 32 gig in dual channel. We got RTX 4090 with 150 watt base, 25 watt boost. So even if you're in a CPU heavy game, you should be able to get up to at least 150 watts no matter what. QHD plus 16-inch 240 hertz 1100 nit mini LED display that should be absolutely gorgeous. Now, we have not done any display testing on it, but the display is awesome in my opinion. We've got G-Sync, Advanced Optimus. Looks like I put the RAM on here twice, which is a little bit of a mistake. We do have 2 terabytes of SSD space on this guy, but I'm not sure if it's in RAID 0 or if it's one 2 terabyte drive. We're going to check that out. The ports on this are one HDMI 2.1. We got a Thunderbolt 4, a USB-C. Both of these have DisplayPort 1.4 support and power delivery support. 2 more USB-As on the right, an Ethernet and a headset port. No SD card slot here, and it's a little sad there's not 5 USBs. The ports on this guy are not that amazing, right? 90 watt-hour battery, Wi-Fi 6E, Bluetooth 5.2, and a 720p webcam. All right, so those are the quick and dirty spec overview of the Scar 16. I think it's a tremendous set of specs versus most of the competition out there. That said, it's not necessarily the best bang for the buck laptop you can buy. You are getting some premium features such as RGB lighting and the really high-end display, as well as liquid metal conductanate on the CPU and the GPU. So this is my laptop ranked list, and it's a very extensive list that has basically every single RTX 4000 series laptop that you can buy. There's 148 laptops on this list now, and there are quite a few RTX 3000 laptop deals here at the top. So if you're looking for a top deal, you don't have $3,000 to spend. Let's say you only have $1,000 to spend, or maybe $1,500 to spend. You're gonna be able to find some really great deals, both on RTX 4000 series laptops that I can recommend, as well as RTX 3000 series laptops right here at the top, okay? Now, in terms of highly competitive laptops, the first thing we're gonna do, all right, we're gonna sort by display quality, because that's probably the #1 reason someone's gonna wanna get the Scar 16. The display quality on this is absolutely nuts. So if we sort by display quality, we can basically see all of these laptops right here that feature 100% display rating. These basically all have mini LED displays, and they're 16:10 aspect ratios. So we've got the Flow X16. This is going to be a more portable version of the laptop. I can go and click this and expand this, and I can get all kinds of data here about the laptop. And you can scroll through pictures on this list. If I go and flip to the next one, we got the Zephyrus M16. Well, real quick, the Flow X16, super portable laptop, and it hooks up to an XG Mobile eGPU for additional performance. But the onboard hardware is not going to be nearly as powerful as this guy, though. All right, now this has not been released for sale as far as I know yet, but it's going to be awesome. If you're looking for like an ultrabook type of experience that's got a touch screen, folds backwards, can be used as a tablet, this is the way to go. Zephyrus M16 is like more of a thinner, lighter version of the Scar, and it's got Windows Hello. The Scar does not have Windows Hello. And this thing does not have as high of power limits, and it doesn't have an HX processor, so there's a lot more multi-core performance in the Scar 16, but it's the same display. Same mini LED display. So here's the Scar 16, and you can get an RTX 4080 version of this for $28.99 as well. This is the one we're going to be reviewing today. It's an RTX 4090 with an i9-13980HX. We already went over all these specs. Here's the 4080 version. The only difference here is a 1 terabyte SSD, and then you get an RTX 4080 instead, and it is quite a bit cheaper at $28.99. So that's going to be $800 cheaper, right? $800 cheaper. That's pretty significant. The 1 terabyte to 2 terabyte SSD upgrade might be worth like $100, maybe $200 at most. So really, you're paying like $800, like probably $700 basically, for the RTX 4080 to 4090 upgrade. And I don't think you're going to get a huge percentage improvement, probably more like 12-15% performance gain going between these two. So if you're after a better bang for the buck, the 4080 version of this machine is probably the better way to go. Now, the Zephyrus Duo 16, this guy is very competitive with the Scar 16, but it's got a dual display system, and this is a touch display that also has stylus support. So if you need something to draw on, this is going to be awesome. If you want dual screens for like programming or spreadsheets or video editing or Photoshop design, whatever you want to do, this thing's got some awesome stuff. I did an unboxing of this laptop 2 days ago, and then I also did a comparison with this Ryzen CPU yesterday. So be sure to check out my live stream history if you want to check out this video. Right here's the unboxing. So the MSI Stealth 15 has, I don't know why it's here. It shouldn't have a 100% display quality. What is this doing here? This looks, I don't think, yeah, this should not be up here. That's a error. Now this one probably should be. I believe this one's super bright and vibrant display. I don't think it's a mini LED though, is it? I don't think so. Either way, I don't really recommend the Stealth 17 Studio. Anyways, very, very high price for minimal performance. I would definitely go with like the Zephyrus M16 or the Blade 16 instead if you're looking for something a little more portable. Now, the Blade 16 is definitely a strong competitor to the Scar 16. The biggest thing here is that you have a 4K 120 hertz or Full HD 240 hertz, 1000 nits mini LED display. So basically what you're looking at is a trade-off. Higher resolution, maybe if you're like a video editor, graphic designer, and you want to see, the differences between, I don't know, like fine details in your images or video work, having a higher resolution display might be the main application here, going to this 4K 120 hertz version. That said, for most gaming, I think the QHD version, QHD plus 240 hertz is going to be much better in the Scar because you get the full better resolution, which I don't think most people's eyes are going to be able to tell a difference between the 4K and QHD 240 hertz. Except maybe when you're looking at text kind of up close. So in general, I do think that the Scar 16 has a better all-around display for most gamers, with the exception of maybe some design people might prefer, or video editing people might prefer the 4K 120 hertz. Now, the big advantage, I think, for the Blade 16 is this DDR5 5600 RAM, which is probably going to give it a slight edge in CPU-bound gaming performance. Although the CPU itself doesn't go to quite as high of power limit as the Scar 16. And we have tested this. I did do an unboxing of the Blade 16. So if you want to check that out, this should be on the sheet here as well. Right here, Blade 16, I do an overview of it. Here's the unboxing. I do some testing of it. And then here's also hands-on when I was with the Blade 16 at CES. And they do have a 4080 version of this laptop. And it's a QHD plus 240 hertz 500 nits display. And this is definitely a lot better bang for the buck at $35.99 compared to the more expensive Blade 16. For the money, I feel like the Scar 16 is a better bang for the buck, but the build quality and a few other things on the Blade 16, like the speaker quality, may be worth the upgrade. It's up to you. Overall, when you compare the 4080 version being almost the same price as the Scar 16 at $36.99, I definitely would lean more towards the Scar 16 for my recommendation. That said, you also have Windows Hello on the Blade series. You don't have that on the Scar 16. So there's three key differences right there. You got the RAM, you got the display difference between the, especially if you get the 4090 version with the 4K mini LED. So there's a lot of differences there. The other laptops that have a mini LED would be the Acer Predator Helios 18 with the i9-13900HX and RTX 4080. Now, it doesn't go up to 4090, and this is not currently available inside of the United States to the best of my knowledge. There are some European places that are selling it, and I believe in some of the Asian markets they're selling it, like India and a couple other markets. I don't know exactly where it's being sold or not being sold yet, but it's not being sold in the United States, which is a big sad panda for me because I really want to review this guy. The Acer Predator Helios 16 is a smaller version, has the same power limits and everything, but basically, if you get the mini LED version, this is the only 18-inch laptop that has a mini LED, though the GT77 also has a mini LED display. That's a 4K 144 hertz, but it has a slower response time, which makes it so it's harder for me to recommend it, and I did hurt the display rating for that reason. Now, yeah, so those are all the displays that can go up to about 1,000 nits that are competitive with the Scar 16. Here we are. This is the box. This is the design. It's very similar to the Scar 18 box. It's almost exactly the same. Open it up. You got several flaps here. And I think it's this way. Yeah, so you got to make sure you open this the right way up or the laptop will fall out, which is not good. But at least Asus kind of warns you if you're opening it upside down. It says like flip over or something. So that's how the box is. That's how the laptop is packaged, just like that. This is I like this packaging overall, and it's not like super high-end premium packaging, but it's not bad packaging. We got a plastic wrap on it, and inside of here, we have our power adapter. Shabam. All right. I actually have another power adapter, so we don't need to get this one out. And you also have your exchangeable cab. This will basically let you change out one of the plastic pieces on the back of the laptop. With this, basically, it's minor. Like you could do some customization with this, like I don't know, painting it or something. If you want it to be blue, but I wish they would give you like multiple color options for this out of the box. That'd be pretty cool. All right, and then we got our warranty information cards here. Quick steps on how to register. Thank you for purchasing an Asus laptop. Register your laptop to receive Asus accidental damage protection, I believe. Yeah, accidental damage protection. See, this comes with accidental damage protection. That's pretty freaking awesome. I think this is the only laptop this year that comes with accidental damage protection out of the box. I don't think any of the other laptops come with that. And this should just have a 1-year warranty, I believe. All right, so a little quick setup guide here. Nothing special, really. All right, so here is the laptop. Ultra high refresh rate, 240 Hz, HDR 1000 VESA display, 100% DCI B3 color gamut coverage, NVIDIA Advanced Optimus, 15-degree lower temperatures because of liquid metal conductanaut extreme, and maximized airflow with a triple fan system and 0 dB ambient cooling if you want to do super quiet gaming or workloads, like if you're in a library or something. If this laptop doesn't have any issues, I will be including this laptop in my laptop review list resale program. That is basically, if you want to become a channel member, there's a join button right below the live stream right now. When you join, you'll be able to fill out an application to get on a wait list. And when you get on that wait list, the top person on the wait list gets an opportunity to buy from my review laptops that I'll be reselling. Now, I'm only going to resell the laptops that I love or really think are good and I can recommend. I'll be returning the ones that I don't recommend, right? So, and I'm only going to sell laptops that, as far as I know, have 0 known issues with them. Like if there's dead pixels or anything like that, then I won't include it. So I just turned it on, but I just realized we got to take the bottom off. So first up, Side by side, we've got the Blade 16. The Blade 16 is basically the exact same width, but not as deep. It's going to be a little more portable because it's not as deep. Next up, we have the Strix G18. Now, the G18 is the exact same size as the Scar 18. So if you want to see what these look like side by side, that's what these look like. Like, it's basically this G18 and the Scar 18 have the exact same footprint. So this is the exact same comparison here. And yeah, and if you want to see what it looks like when I open them side by side, you can see how big of a difference it is as well. The 18-inch is going to be better to game on in a sense that it's like a bigger all-around display, so you can see more details. But with the 16-inch, I would say you can just sit a little bit closer, you know, and you get a similar experience. For the Alienware M16, the Scar is just a little narrower. We got a little bit of an extra chunk here, about 3/4 of an inch, and then on the front we got about an inch difference as well. So that's how this thing stacks up to the competition size-wise. And here are the power bricks. I've shown these several times, but I'll show them again here. So right here's the power brick. This is going to be the power brick for the Scar and Strix series. 330 watts. These are all 330 watt power bricks. This is the Blade 16 and 18. And this is going to be the GT77, the Alienware M16, Alienware M18. It's the biggest, beefiest one out of all of them. And so the Asus one is not as good as the Razer, but it's close. It's really not far behind. We'll be using the iFixit kit here. So for this, you just need a Phillips head screwdriver. Nothing too special, but you probably want it to be magnetic, so it's a lot easier to grab the screw. All right, so we're just gonna start going around the sides here. All right, it created a little gap there so that I can get my prying tools in there to get it up and off, right? So makes it very easy to take this laptop apart. All right, so I probably don't even have to take this laptop into my lap to take it all apart, but I probably will just in case. So it's still easier no matter what. Plus, this way I get to show off my Into the AM t-shirt. There's a link in the description if you want to pick up some t-shirts. So this laptop, because of the pop-up screw, and because Asus this year removed the ribbon cables, it's so much easier to open this laptop up than ever before. So this features a 3-fan design. Here is the layout. We've got an M.2 right here. We've got a second M.2 over here. So we have 2 SSDs in RAID 0 on this laptop then. 2 M.2s. And that's going to give us faster read and write speeds, but it does inhibit our ability to upgrade the laptop for less money. Because like my some laptops are going to come with a 1-2 terabyte SSD, and that's going to basically make it cheaper to upgrade for you because you can have one slot be completely open already. Though if you're going to upgrade both slots anyway, then it doesn't really matter that much. But all right, and then we got 2 sticks of SODIMM RAM. Let's go ahead and take a look at what our RAM is. I can't see the brand of this SSD yet. Oh, it's a Samsung SSD. It says Samsung Electronics in the bottom left. And so we should have 2 of those. And then here's our RAM module. It's SK Hynix, made in Korea. 16 gigs, 1RX8, PCI, PC5, 4800. So this is not super expensive RAM. SK Hynix is one of the cheaper brands, and you might be able to get better performance if you were to upgrade it. Let's take a look at our internal layout some more. We've got our RGB ribbon cable. Our RGB ribbon light bar along this thing here. It's pretty sweet that there's no ribbon cables now attached to the bottom panel. We've got our speakers right here. Ooh, they're kind of wobbly a little bit. That probably helps prevent vibration on the chassis, having this wobble. And then we've got a 90 watt-hour battery right here. We've got, let's see if our Wi-Fi is located underneath our M.2 slot here. So if you're going to upgrade that, you're going to take the M.2 slot away. And it's an Intel AX211 for our Wi-Fi. I believe that was the same one on the Scar 18. And for our thermal design, I love the thermal design in this laptop. It's phenomenal. We got a triple fan setup. And look at all of the exhaust fins, all right? So we got an exhaust fin, big beefy one over here on the left. We got a huge one along the entire rear of the laptop. And then we got another one on the right over here. Now, if there was any way that Asus could eventually add maybe a fourth fan right here to blow air more directly on these heat fins, like across all of this area somehow, just throwing air out here, I think that would really help their thermals even better. But still, the way this is designed, we have all of these foam ridges that's designed to direct the air from this fan out and across the VRMs and across this GPU right here primarily. But that's going to help keep the whole center of the laptop cooler. And I really love that design. Like, it is one of the most ingenious designs we've seen from a laptop in a long time. And I think this really helps the temperatures on the Scar 16, especially considering how high of a wattage we're pulling through only a 16-inch chassis that only weighs 5.5 pounds. This is going to be, as far as I know, this is going to be the most performance per pound that you can buy in a laptop. Like, it is the lightest weight, most performance as far as I am aware currently. All right. That may not be true as we go along. Maybe we'll find some other laptops that are very competitive or maybe slightly edge this one out. But this one's going to basically be in the top performance per pound category, in the top 5 no matter what this year. It's so good on that front. All right, so examining our heat pipe layout, we've got a dedicated CPU heat pipe that goes to this side. Then we have 2 shared heat pipes, and notice that there's another heat pipe here that overlaps these existing heat pipes to transfer heat and then also utilize the full rear, and that's true on this right side as well. So what the heat basically is going to be generated from the CPU. It's going to go up here, and then it's going to be transferred, and it's going to be dissipated across this whole rear. And it's obviously not going to be as efficient as if this whole heat pipe went across everything directly, but it's still going to be helpful. It's going to help a little bit. All right, and then we got another heat pipe right here that's going to be across the VRMs, and they got a heat plate right here as well on the VRMs. So basically, super dedicated, super strong heat pipe layout for this laptop chassis. We've got a dedicated heat pipe to the GPU right here. These two shared heat pipes across the center of the GPU. That's going to help the thermals basically go on both fans, or all 3 fans can help the GPU. All 3 fans can help the CPU, though this third fan really mainly helps the GPU, okay? The CPU doesn't quite get as much help from this third fan because it's not directly over it, but it still will help blowing across the center here. We also have this other heat pipe that is just designed, I guess there's other components here underneath here that they're trying to cool, and they're basically trying to transfer heat from this little loop up to the 3 big heat pipes to be transferred out to the ends and the fins and to be removed from the laptop. Overall, I love this thermal cooling solution. It's probably the best one in a 16-inch laptop right now, I think. And then on top of that, to boot, we have liquid metal conductance on extreme, which is basically pure gallium. So it's gonna conduct the heat really, really well on this laptop. I think we're gonna see some very good performance for a 16-inch laptop. All right, so popping that thing back together was really easy. All right, real quick overview of the build quality. We've got a metal top lid. This is the removable piece. You can change this piece out. It attaches magnetically. We have basically, like, this is hard plastic. And there's a lot of ventilation through here for air intakes. And we also have these big rubber feet that help give some airflow underneath the laptop. This logo right here, this ROG logo, does light up. And this is also a light bar along the back. So when I fire this up, we got the ROG logo. This is customizable. You can turn this RGB off if you're not a fan of RGB. It's easy to turn off. It's just a hotkey away to turn it all off. And if you like the RGB, though, it is very bright and very vibrant. If I turn these lights off, you'll be able to see how bright and vibrant it is. It looks really good, and the RGB on the front and back both look really good, I think. It's one of the best looking RGB implementations currently on the market. If you want to log into this, you've got to do a number pad, like a password or a PIN. One thing that is cool is you do have a built-in number pad in the touchpad there. All you have to do is hold on the right side up here for like 2 seconds, or maybe even a half second, and it pops up, goes away. And this obviously does work quite well. So looking at the ports, Right side, we have two USB-A 3.2 Gen 2s, and those are going to be very fast for USB-As. But your USB-C over here and Thunderbolt 4 are going to be faster. Now, the Thunderbolt 4 goes to the integrated GPU if you need to do battery presentations. And then this USB-C with DisplayPort 1.4, they both have DisplayPort 1.4. So both of these ports could do 240 hertz to the monitor behind me. If you want to do high performance gaming on ultra high resolution, high refresh rate displays. HDMI 2.1 right here. And these both also have power delivery, I believe up to 130 watts. It might only be 100 watts. I think it's only 100 watt, but the Zephyrus lineup I think is 130 this year. We have a headset port, HDMI 2.1, and then we have a upward facing Ethernet port, and it is 2.5 gigabit Ethernet, and we have a power adapter port. So no ports are located on the back because it's all fan exhaust. Let's do Coil Whine right now. Let's see if we can hear it. So I'm going to put the laptop into silent mode, and we're going to load up Timespy benchmark test. I put it into silent mode using the hotkey here. There are a number of hotkeys on this keyboard. I really like the layout of this keyboard, by the way. I don't like the feel of the keyboard as much as I used to because it used to be mechanical in 2021. But this is the same layout from the Scar 15 that I had previously. And I really like this layout. We got full size. If you're not paying attention to it, like, or in your dark room, it's like so bright, it's kind of obnoxiously bright, and you have to turn the brightness down. And I'm not kidding, I do that. And same for the Blade 18, honestly. The screen can be so bright at over 500 nits too. Here is the keyboard layout. We've got full-size number pad, arrow keys, and if you press FN, you can do home and page up, page down. You've got fast forward, rewind on music, stop, play, a delete key, airplane mode, go to sleep, disable trackpad, and then we've got your projectors. We've got brightness up and down, copy, paste. We've got our fan profile, but we also have a fan profile button up here. So you can press this to rotate between turbo, performance, and silent. And then you have also the ROG button up here. This is going to launch you into Armory Crate to adjust settings. We've got mute mic button, volume up and down button. And then we also have the Aura Sync. This is going to let you rotate through different keyboard lightings. In general, I would just leave it on rainbow unless you're going to do like sync it to music, which it's really cool when you sync it to music. You have 3 brightness levels on the RGB, and that does turn off the RGB on the back. The light bar and the rear logo turns off when you turn that off. So, and if you want to, you can customize it so that the backlighting on the keyboard is white and the rear lighting is not turned on in the Armory Crate software. So if you're in a business meeting and you still want to have backlights without looking like a rainbow unicorn dude, you can totally do that, or girl, whoever you are. So it's pretty sweet, the customization this laptop has. You just have to be willing to work with the software a little bit to make it happen. Do you hear it? There's a little bit of coil whine. I have the mic right next to it, right? So you're gonna hear way more. Like if I hold it right where you normally would be, like sitting back a little bit, I can't hear it almost at all. But when I'm close, I can definitely hear some coil whine. All right, taking a look at our stats, we're gonna need to get HW info up because we're not seeing our full stats right now. You see this? We're gonna need to get our power limits and our temperatures up. Save the ants, they're screaming, yeah, right? Vitamin K says, yes, finally a Scar 16 review. Yeah, so overall, there's definitely coil whine on this unit that I have here. I will say that at a normal using distance, I don't think I would hear it. At least not, like right now I have another fan going in the other part of the room, but it's not like, right now it just kind of sounds like a low whir to a fan or something, you know, like fans on low. Here, let me turn my fan off. And I have the mic. Basically, right now you can kind of hear my Blade 18 fans a little bit. But the laptop's so dang quiet. Literally, the coil whine's louder than the fans because the fans are so quiet. It's impressive how noiseless this is, but in a super quiet environment, you would hear the coil. I think if you're like in an empty house with no extra noise at all, or if you're in a library type of thing, you might be able to hear it a little bit. But I don't think this is certainly not severe coil whine, I don't think. If you have the fans on at all, I would never hear that coil whine. The fan, like even fans on performance mode with slight fan noise is going to completely mask the coil whine. The CPU is not doing any coil whine. So that's kind of interesting. The CPU is not doing coil whine where the GPU did coil whine. So it's probably the GPU VRMs that have the coil whine. Wow, so little on the graphics score. So this is why you wouldn't really want to do silent mode. So that's silent mode, 6,866. That's why you wouldn't want to do silent mode, typically speaking. Our CPU score is actually really good for silent mode. So yeah, you're only really going to play games in silent mode when you're doing like an older game where you set the settings a little bit lower or something, or you're okay with less than 60 FPS, or it really depends on the game, right? Some games are going to run a lot better than others. There's the coil whine test. I would say the coil whine's existent, but not severe. I really wouldn't call that severe. Let's do a display test. Here is our rating. 100% of sRGB, 92% of Adobe RGB, and 90% of the P3 color gamut. Now, you got to keep in mind that my Spyder 5 Elite underestimates color gamuts by like 8 to 9%. So this is basically close to 100% RGB and close to 100% P3 color gamut. Very good color gamut. This is basically the highest you can test on the Spyder 5 Elite for the most part. Our nits brightness at lowest was 87. That's a bit bright on the brighter side. Contrast ratio, very good. Nits brightness on the high side was only 832. Obviously, that's insanely good, but that's not as good as what we had in the Zephyrus Duo, getting over 1,018. It makes me wonder if the display might be in a slightly different display mode or something, because I know there's a couple different display modes in Armory Crate. So let's check that out. So inside of here, you can see that right now we're in GPU mode, ultimate mode. All right, where is the display? Multi-zone backlight right here. So you can see right there is the setting. Hundreds of mini LED zones operate independently, dimming dark areas of the bright screen, deeper blacks, reaching up to 1100 nits brightness in areas for vibrant, punchy colors. This mode is ideal for gaming and watching movies, especially HDR. To enable HDR, go to Windows Settings, Display, and turn on Use HDR. Let's try to turn on HDR and see if we get a different result. And you can see the blooming a little bit there. You see the blooming around the Asus logo? That's kind of like, with the human eye, it's kind of hard to see it. I think I see it a little bit better with, I see it a little bit more on the camera, honestly. HDR mode is now on. It's working. HDR mode is working. What? That's interesting that it restarted and now it's going okay. So let's go ahead and try the Spyder Elite again. Our color gamuts appear to be the same. Interesting. Our brightness went down pretty noticeably in HDR mode. Our contrast ratio went up. So only 484 nits measured in HDR mode. That seems oddly low, if I'm being honest. It makes me wonder if something's going on. Maybe the HDR is just not working or something. Let's just try our brightness and contrast test again. I want to verify our results, basically. HDR is wacky right now with this BIOS. Yeah, I'm guessing it's some kind of bug with the... Like, we black screened when we were turning on HDR, and I'm guessing it's just not working correctly, so... Okay, so we got 826. 825, 826, that was our highest. And we just did the test the same way for all of them. But basically, there's the way I would evaluate it is basically there's a lot of white on the screen when we're doing these tests. And that the lower amounts of white, like if there was only one white bar in the middle being shown, that would show you the full brightness potential. Versus like there's white bars all over the display. So that would be the reasoning, in my opinion, why we didn't get over 1,000 nits brightness. Now the Duo 16 did go over 1,000 even in the same test. So I don't know exactly what's up with that. 826 is still excellent though. You got to keep in mind that 826 is like mind-numbingly bright, right? So you can really see the blooming on the camera up here in the top right. But in the human vision, I don't see that at all. I don't see any blooming up there, just so you know. And I also want to point out that the GT77 Titan, which also is rated for over 1,000 nits, I think that did about 800 something nits as well in the same test. So it is partially the limitations of the HDR display. These colors are super vibrant and punchy with very noticeably peaky brights. You know, whites like around here. Like these are like just super glorious looking. That said, this mini LED display is very, very good. Especially the blacks are really, really good. That's probably the biggest thing about this is the dark areas are just super freaking dark. We get a little bit of the blooming going on around some of these like really light images. And it's not quite perfectly black around those edges, but it's kind of hard to tell. You kind of got to be looking for it to notice it. If you're a graphics guy, like a, like a graphic designer or something, you probably would notice the blooming more than me even. These are HDR videos. I don't know if we're getting any kind of HDR coverage on these videos right now because we are not in HDR mode, but we're just using the display in non-HDR mode and it still looks freaking... So here's the webcam. Wow, that is very low resolution. Okay, Asus, this is an area we need some improvement in, okay? It almost looks like there's some kind of like filter effect or something. I am recording the video and it's gonna be so bad. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Okay, so it's trying to adjust for the brightness. There it goes. Okay. A little bit brighter. A little bit better detail. Goodness. That is not a very good webcam. This is another one of the reasons why I would choose a Razer Blade over a Scar. Webcam could definitely have some noticeable improvements here. We're gonna put the mic about 10 inches in front of the laptop. All right, so here's Roar by Peter Spacey. Seems very similar to the Scar 18, maybe a hair less volume, but I believe we have this application we can go into, Dolby Access. You want to make sure you go in here, at least you can play with the audio settings. So we've got, right now we're on music balanced. Let me try changing it to dynamic. Well, let's keep it in music balanced and let me play that song again. All right, and I'm gonna switch it to detailed. I'm gonna change it to dynamic. You hear how quieter the music is? Turn to the dynamic, it's a huge difference. All right, so we're gonna retest that song from the beginning in dynamic because it was that is massively louder in dynamic. All right. All right, next up is Half-Life Faded Aeon, which has a lot of like mids and highs. That sounded really good. All right, La 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 by Deuce Williams.
I love
Okay, so yeah, I think the speakers are basically exactly like the Scar 18. Like, I think they're probably the exact same speakers. Moderately high volume, decent-ish bass. You know, there's some bass in there. There's moderately clear mids and highs. Overall, what did I give the Scar 18? I think it was like an 8.7 or something like that, somewhere like in that range. Out of total speaker quality, the Blade 18 is definitely louder and more clear sounding. The MacBook Pro is still king of laptop speakers, but this is still going to fill a room pretty dang well with some decent audio, at least a small to medium-sized room. All right, sweet. Here is CrystalDiskMark with the RAID 0 SSDs that we have in here. Actually, is it RAID 0? Yeah, no, it is. Yeah, so it's 2 gig drive. So we are in RAID 0. Look at that speed, 1100. Here is your CrystalDiskMark results, by the way. Impressive 11.3K read, 10.3K write. Obviously very, very good. Here are the two displays side by side. You can see the 17-inch display is obviously bigger. Okay, so I would say the GT77 display is a little brighter. They're both in the same ballpark of brightness. The GT77 I think is also set to like a thirstier color gamut spectrum. So right now I think the colors are a little more accurate on the Scar and a little bit more punchy on the GT. But inside of here, with MSI True Color, you can change it to be like Adobe RGB or P3 color gamut. So I'm gonna set it to P3 color gamut for some of these side-by-sides. Oh, it changed automatically. But these are obviously both excellent displays, extremely vibrant and very bright. I think the GT77 display is just slightly more colorful though, and slightly brighter as well. I believe you press F12 to get into the BIOS. All right, I pressed F2 and F12. I'm not sure if it's F12 or F2. One of those two. F7 to go to advanced mode. You gotta go to the advanced tab up here. Scroll down. Core voltage offset configuration. This is where you go to do a basic BIOS undervolt. So you go to enable core voltage offset, and then you go 30, and you make sure you set it to minus. And this does a 30 millivolt undervolt. And you're supposed to be able to do up to a minus 80. If I type in 79 though, notice it says not within valid input range, okay? And notice there's a decent amount of bloom around this button, by the way. All right, so 30 is the maximum you can undervolt in the BIOS. So right here, notice that under active performance cores, you can disable or enable performance cores and efficiency cores. So if you want to, you can disable the efficiency cores for possibly better gaming performance on the P cores. It'd be interesting to try that out. I'm not sure exactly if that would make any difference. As far as I can tell, there is no settings in the BIOS here to change your undervolt. So you've got up to minus 30 right now in the bugged BIOS. It should be able to go up to minus 80. It still says you can't do that right now. I have sent that bug to Asus, so they should be working on fixing it though. And yeah, it's completely locked down. There's no options to change anything in here. So ThrottleStop's not going to work for undervolting. So we do have a minor undervolt though, right? It's not like we don't have any undervolt at all. Our settings in here, and I'm going to show you Armory Crate real quick. We're going to do a quick overview. Right here, you have your home button. This is going to give you your different power profiles. You've got silent, performance, turbo, and manual. And there is a hotkey right above the F4 button to switch between these. So I can press this and it'll switch between them. You cannot get into manual unless you go into Armory Crate. Now, inside of Armory Crate, you do have to click the check button to activate it, all right? So once we get into manual fan mode, I have everything set to maximum fans here on the left. And we've got our power limits on our CPU also pushed all the way to the right, 140 and 175. All right, our GPU is also going to be at maximum fan. And there is a system fan in here. You can set the curve for the third fan as well. For our base clock, we're going to do 50 boost, 100 for our memory. So 50 and 100 for our GPU overclock. And that's just baked into the manual mode. I did not set that. That's what Asus does out of the box. GPU mode is in ultimate mode. This is going to turn off the integrated GPU and disable things like Intel Quick Sync and also prevent you from getting good battery life. So you may not want to keep it in GPU ultimate mode. We're going to test in GPU ultimate mode for the sake of the video. It might slightly boost performance in certain games or slightly reduce temperatures in certain games. So that's Armory Crate in a nutshell. You can hear those fans starting to spin up. Most of the time, for most people, you're probably just want to keep it in turbo or set your own manual fan profile curves using this graph right here. All right, so we're in manual mode now. We're going to run Cinebench R23 for anyone that's curious about that. I did do more detailed CPU benchmark testing, though. So for anyone that wants to see it, check my live stream history. I paired this up against a Ryzen 9 7945HX CPU and did a bunch of CPU benchmarks side by side. So we're going to start with a multi-core rendering. So we got 31,820 for our first run. I've seen over 32 though. Let me go ahead and exit some of these extra applications. All right, so 31,820, that's phenomenal performance for a 16-inch laptop. It really doesn't get much better than that. The main way it might get better is simply by having better undervolting. The Ryzen 7945HX does score better than this though. Okay, so if you're after raw multi-core performance, the Ryzen is slightly higher, getting closer to 34,000 out of the box, 36,000 when undervolted, 32,173 for our second run. So right here we have 2172, and for our 10-minute test on the Cinebench R23 on the SCAR 16, we got 30,792. All right, so you guys can see that, right? Yeah, so you can see our 10-minute scores that we just did yesterday. So there's no point in us redoing these. The 10-minute score, 30,792, 2172 for our single cores. If you want to check out those tests, there's going to be, go to my channel, go to the Zephyrus Duo versus SCAR 16 CPU benchmark video, and you'll find that data. You can see the Ryzen did better on the multi-core, but worse on the single core. So 35,028 for multi-core, 19,042 for the single core. Now the Ryzen was undervolted significantly. The i9. You gotta keep that in mind that you're going to get less performance than that typically from the Ryzen. So we're going to go here, set this to high quality ray tracing as a preset. VSync off, 2560 by 1600. DLSS we want on quality. NVIDIA Reflex is enabled. Frame generation is enabled. We're going to save that setting. Well, so absolutely, we were having problems with our HDR on this laptop, so I don't think we're going to see. Here is the SCAR 16. I'm very curious to see if we're going to be able to. I'm very curious to see if we're going to be able to pass what the SCAR 18 did in this game. I'm very curious to see if we can pass what the SCAR 18 did. Doesn't look like we will. Let me get the SCAR 18 benchmarks pulled up for a comparison's sake. I'll do the GT77 and SCAR 15 benchmarks. In this game, Dying Light 2, the SCAR got 128. No, the SCAR got 138, and the GT77 got 128. Right now, we're doing 134. So we're on track to match performance or be very close to the SCAR 18. 137. Right at the end, it usually goes up a little bit, so I'm anticipating we might actually beat the SCAR 18. Huh. $140, $141. So we got $141, $48. Very good performance. That's 3 FPS higher than the SCAR 18. We are on the latest drivers. That's one important thing to keep in mind. Let me show you guys this performance. Right here we have Dying Light 2 on Ultra. All of this is the same. 138 for the SCAR. We got 141 on the SCAR 16, 128 on the GT. Let's go into our next game test. The big thing with the Ryzen CPU that we tested yesterday was that the 1% lows in dead space were a bit better on Ryzen. Notice our 1% lows are 33, which is not quite ideal. But yeah, it's still very extremely smooth. Like, it's not stuttering for me at all. I can't perceive any stutters. So I don't think it's an issue with this game, the 1% lows being 33. Absolute. Can you elaborate more on HDR issues with this laptop? So how can this mode be used? So right now we need Asus to fix the HDR mode in the BIOS, because when we enabled HDR mode, we went to a black screen instead of, just go back to when I was doing my display testing. It happened during that time. Basically, HDR mode blacked out the screen. caused a problem for us. So I would not, I don't think you can use HDR mode until Asus fixes it. Dead Space, the Scar got 112. The GT77 got 130. The Blade 18 got, I think, like 118 in that range. So it'll be interesting to see what this does. It looks like we're going to get 112 on the Scar 16 as well. Interesting. So far, we're seeing very similar performance between the Scar 16 and the Scar 18. I'm actually a little, it's like eerily similar performance, which I guess makes sense because it's basically the same laptop and a slightly smaller chassis. So we got 113, 34. Very, very good, but not quite, not quite as much as the GT77 in this game. So you can see Dead Space, we got 112 on the Scar 18, 130 on the GT77. In God of War, we got 116, 124. All right, so the goal here is to get 116 to match what the Scar 18 had, or maybe a little bit better, because we have slightly better drivers. All right, so we're going to do DLSS on quality. Graphics, we're going to be setting to all ultra display, 2560 by 1600, quality DLSS. This is how I would play this game if I can. Look at how good the image clarity of this laptop is. It is phenomenal. The colors are looking so good. This display looks awesome. All right, so here we go. Running down God of War. We're going to try to get, I believe it was it 116 or like 112, something like that? I think it was 116 was the goal. So our goal is to beat 116. Looks like we are going to beat 116 or be close to it. Oh, we were. Oh, it's getting close. So we stop when we get to the middle of the water. 117. God of War, 116 for the Scar, 124 for the GT77. Incredible performance in a 16-inch laptop. Ray tracing ultra. Frame generation on. DLSS on quality. 16-inch thermals, just as good as 18-inch, is pretty sweet. Yeah, that's pretty sweet because you're getting the portability with the performance in the small form factor. I don't think you're going to get the same performance from the Blade 16 that you get with the Blade 18, though. That's kind of like an exception. I think that that's kind of what makes the Scar 16 special, in my opinion, because you do get the same high levels of TDP on the CPU as the Scar 18. You don't get that on the Blade 16. Blade 16 has reduced thermals, at least on the CPU. So I just want to point out our temps and wattages. Right now we're doing 260 watts on our CPU and GPU combined there for a little while. Now it's doing 240, 260 again. Our temperatures are still fantastic. Not even above 90 on the CPU, only 74 degrees on the GPU. Those are better temps than we saw on the Scar 18. Maybe this has a better thermal paste. I don't know. 117, 36 for our mins. So 117, let's see how that did against the Scar. 116, so this got 1 FPS better than the Scar 18. Basically matching, and 5 FPS better than the GT77. That shows you the power of their really nice optimization and good temperatures balanced with the CPU and GPU in this Scar 16. That said, we have seen slightly higher performance in the Cyberpunk 2077 in a couple of other games. Now, while we're in Cyberpunk here, I want to go ahead and just do some quick fan noise testing. So this is going to be, we're going to hop into the game and we're going to switch out of manual fan mode. Right now we're in max fans. I want you guys to take a listen to max fans. Okay. All right, so we're going to start at maximum fans. This is going to be as loud as it gets. All right, here's the fans. Just know that the mic is about 10 inches in front of the laptop. We're going to switch to silent mode. All right, switching now. That's in performance. Much quieter. Now we're in silent mode. Notice our FPS is also going to drop. Wow, we're still pulling 120 watts to the GPU, 60 to the CPU in silent mode right now. Silent mode's not perfectly quiet either. It is, I can still hear the fan spinning a little bit right now. Maybe now it's going down to silent mode. Now we're in silent mode. Okay, so now we've dropped fully into silent mode. 53 watts to the GPU, 40 to the CPU, and oh my goodness, our FPS has tanked down to 24. So if you're going to do a silent mode with Cyberpunk, you're going to need to turn the settings way down. So keep that in mind. All right, we're going to go to performance mode again. Watch our TDP on CPU and GPU boost upward again. And our FPS comes roaring back with the fans. All right, so we're in performance fan mode. We're doing 150 watts on the GPU, 43 watts on the CPU right now. And the fans are very bearable. They sound right about 49, 50 decibels right now in performance mode. The music from the speakers completely drowns out the sound of the fans, pretty much. I'm not hearing any coil whine either. Here is turbo mode. There's the fans. So notice we're hitting a 170 on the GPU, 182. So full performance basically. Going back to silent mode again. It's adjusting the power limits on the GPU down to 55 watts. It's going to be really crappy performance unless you turn the settings way down, like turn off ray tracing and other stuff, right? So just know silent mode is going to either need older games or really adjust the settings downward, okay? Okay, so let's go ahead and hop back into Armory Crate. We're going to put it back to manual fan mode again. It's automatically detected that we're in high graphical settings. All right, so here we are, CSGO. Let's see what we get. The number to beat for the SCAR is going to be 512. Will you be testing the Strix 17 with AMD chip? That is the goal. I do have an order in on one of those. It's been delayed though. So not sure when I'm going to get that. Right now we're doing 600 something FPS. 600, 700 something. 500. Looking pretty good. AMD doesn't undervolt no C like Intel. Anthony, I did underclock. I did undervolt the Ryzen chip in yesterday's live stream, and we saw a noticeable bump in performance. It went up by like Cinebench went from 34,000 to 36,000 something. So like a 7 or 8% bump in performance with undervolting on Ryzen. Newegg says the SCAR 17 is delayed until April. Oh, that sucks. Will you be doing an overview comparison of all 13th gen laptops once you've done all? I will definitely be doing like top 5 or top 10 laptops within each of the price segments after I do some more testing. So my goal is to be able to do lots and lots of testing, and then we'll be able to do roundups or detailed comparisons, between lots of them. Okay, so we got 520 FPS, which is 8 more than you can see right here on CSGO. We got 513 on the SCAR, so I guess that's 7 more than the SCAR 16, but the GT77 got 548. So very good performance. Obviously, you're going to get more than 240 FPS in CSGO, but it's nice to see the performance levels. Why? We're going to have really just very similar performance between the SCAR 18 and SCAR 16. So in this test, you got to keep in mind for the Hogwarts test, for both the GT77 and the SCAR 18, the Hogwarts game has gone through quite a bit of updates and optimization since we tested the SCAR 18 about a month ago. it's not really an apples to apples comparison anymore between the Scar 18. So I wouldn't really recommend doing too direct of a comparison here. I'll still show you the numbers for the Scar 18. Just know the context of the game having been updated, okay? And we're also on newer drivers. Okay, so here we are. We're going to run through Hogsmeade, which is the most demanding area of Hogwarts. We're doing 80 to 100 watts on the CPU, 155, 156 to the GPU. Pretty phenomenal TDP throughputs. Our actual FPS is good, though our 1% are a bit low. So we got 98 FPS for our average, 26 for our 1% lows. It's a really demanding game. It's basically as demanding as Dead Space, very close to it. And so this is a very strong test of your CPU throughput and your memory optimization. I want to point out that we got better performance on the Blade 18 with faster memory than we did on this, okay? We got 93 on the Scar 18 and only 78 on the GT77. So 98 is 5 better than the Scar 18, but I would expect similar performance on the Scar 18. So very interesting that we got 98. A little bit of stuttering, but I've seen stuttering on every single PC I've played on this. The Ryzen CPU had slightly less stuttering, but there was still stuttering on the Zephyrus Duo 16. Our 1% lows, or at least were better though. Here we are in Shadow of the Tomb Raider. Look at those colors. Very vibrant, very colorful display. Honestly, it's a very gorgeous display. The display still looks phenomenal because it's mini LED though. Even without HDR, the blacks are extremely black. And the screen is super contrasty. So, and there's no backlight bleed at all with this laptop. All right, so Shadow of the Tomb Raider, we got 156, slightly higher than the Scar 18. Popping over to the Scar 18, you can see Shadow of the Tomb Raider got 151. So we got 5 more than the Scar 18. Again, Silicon Lottery, driver updates might have slightly changed performance. I would anticipate Scar 18 to be getting very similar levels of performance in general to this, depending on your laptop and the Silicon Lottery. So, and it's like only a few percentage points off. And depending on how you run it, you might run into that levels of performance anyway. Like if you were to run the test several times, you're probably going to get some variance in FPS averages, right? So it's within variance range. All right, so here we are. We're on DLSS is on quality. Ray tracing's on ultra. Everything's on ultra right now. We have frame generation enabled. We're at 2560 by 1600 standard settings. Here we are. We're going to run through our benchmark area and see what we get with The Witcher 3. I just use an external display for anything useful. I have the Scar 18. It is recommended to activate the core isolation on Windows 11. If you're wanting to do undervolting with Intel XTU, if that ever becomes available, you'll have to disable core isolation. I wonder if we have to disable that for ThrottleStop. Frost, do you know if you've disabled core isolation? Okay, 111, 55. So we got 5 more FPS on the Scar 16. Again, it could be related to drivers. It could be related to a lot of different things. But it's still very good performance for the Scar 16. All right, so we're going to test on high settings first. All right, so here we are. We're on high settings. Let's go ahead and see what we get. Very responsive, gorgeous display action. Let me turn the sound on. Extremely responsive with no ghosting to the best of my knowledge right now. This is going to be an amazing laptop to play a game like Apex Legends. Especially since Apex Legends has so much gorgeous color and all of that, you know. So let's change our settings down to low now. All right, so everything's low except we have TSAA and our textures are up. We should be able to get close to 300 FPS, if not 300 nonstop. And I can tell there's been a slight increase to the responsiveness now. It feels nice and tight, very fluid. I think my aim is, I'm just like, I haven't played Apex in like a little while. My aim is feeling a little rusty right now. So this is really helpful, getting my aim practice in. Our CPU temps are kind of spicy right now. Doing 90 degrees. That said, if you wanted to, you could limit the FPS down to 240, and that would help reduce your temperatures on this laptop. But if you're going to do competitive games, I really recommend doing a 240 hertz display. The biggest thing on the Titan is just that the general response rate is not as high. So, like the gray to gray response time is noticeably worse. Dang it, we're not going to get this kill. Oh, no. I missed. See, if I had 480 hertz refresh rate, I would have got to kill. No, I'm just kidding. I'm going to turn the sound up, see if I can hear some spatial audio. All right, we got that kill. We killed ourselves with our own arc star. Woo! Performance primarily 13,560. It's a very good score, but we were seeing over 14,000 on the GT77 for reference. All right, so we're in manual mode. Let's see what we get. We're going to be in manual with a 50/100 OC on the GPU. And we're going to try an OC of probably like 225 1000 or maybe 200 1000. We'll see. I have not tried overclocking this GPU at all, so probably 225 would be stable. Maybe a 200 almost for sure will be, but 225 might not be. All right, so looking at our performance so far, we're doing 172 watts. Our GPU clock right now is 2070, 2085. It's very good, but we're seeing higher GPU clocks on like the GT77 out of the box was doing like 2200 with the factory OC that it has. And dropping down to 19.9 right now. Our temperatures are very good, but they are a little bit higher than we've seen on some of the other laptops, but they're still pretty good. They're pretty dang good. All right, so out of the box, we got 21,564, 16,396 with a 30 millivolt undervolt. It's very good. Let's go ahead and do our quick and dirty OC. So, let's do 220. I'm feeling lucky at 220. And we'll do 1,000 on the memory. Let's just find out if it works. So far, I'm not seeing any graphical glitches. Notice our clock speed doing 2175 now. So we're not even utilizing the full 220 OC that I put into Afterburner. We're running into voltage. Basically, like the voltage curve is maxing out at a certain point, and we're not being able to go beyond it. So 2100 for our clock speed. If you were wanting to bypass this, basically you'd have to replace the VBIOS or modify the driver somehow. Okay, our OC gave us 22,171 for our Timespy, which is a nice bump of what was that, 650 points or 800, 700 points or something like that. Let's go ahead and disable core. We're going to disable core isolation, and we're going to go to Windows, Features, and we're turn off Disable Virtual Machine Platform. We're going to go ahead and restart, and we're going to see if ThrottleStop works after disabling those two features. Yeah, it's still grayed out. So core isolation was not related. It's something related to the BIOS. Yeah, everything's locked down in ThrottleStop. Okay, so I'm glad I confirmed that. Oh, this is the Asus Strix Scar 16. It features a 1100 nits brightness, HDR, mini LED, QHD 240 Hz display. It's got an i9 13980H X in it, which is an excellent performance, giving almost as much multi-core performance as an i9-13900K. That said, this thing, I could not undervolt it. Other users have been able to undervolt it using ThrottleStop. I don't know why this one's not letting me. The undervolting software inside the BIOS, undervolting, if you don't know what it is a way to increase the efficiency of your processor or whatever silicon you're using, because manufacturers typically overvolt to ensure stability, where some CPU or GPU components can undervolt and increase power efficiency. That said, we did test today at a 30 millivolt undervolt in everything that we tested, and the performance was very good, matching the SCAR 18. Now, matching or beating the SCAR 18 in every test that we ran. The keyboard on this is very nice. We've got a nice layout to it with nice extra functionalities. I went over the keyboard earlier. It's got a good feel to the keyboard with decent key travel, but I would say that this is not quite as nice as something like the mechanical keyboard you get on the GT77. It's not as nice as the mechanical keyboard on the Omen 17. But I do like the layout and the functionality. The touchpad is excellent. And for a 16-inch laptop, you can turn on this number pad functionality. And that's pretty sweet. I'll see if I can get the camera to focus. I don't think the camera's going to focus on that. But the touchpad functionality is really nice if you're going to use an external mouse, right? I wouldn't really turn it on and off that often. It's pretty quick and easy to turn on and off, but it's hard for me to think about it. I usually end up using just the numbers up here at the top. But maybe if you can program yourself to think that way, it would be fine. Style-wise, this is probably the most RGB-ified laptop that you can buy on the market. It's very gorgeous. I did some lights off examples earlier in the live stream. You can see the lights on the front. You can see the lights on the back. You got a light up RGB logo. You can turn all of these lights off for a more professional look if you need to. It's a very stylish, probably the most stylish RGB-ified laptop that money can buy. Now, in terms of performance per pound, this is phenomenal. At only 5.5 pounds, we're seeing the same performance that we saw in the SCAR 18, but in a 16-inch form factor. That's phenomenal. Now, the only other real contender for performance per pound would probably be like the Legion Pro 7 or maybe the XMG Neo 16. Those are going to be very competitive, especially if you have the liquid cooler on the Neo 16. But this is going to be one of the very best performance because it's a full watt i9, full wattage, RTX 4090 in this one, but you can get this with the 4080 for a discounted price. Now, I did a detailed comparison earlier in the live stream near the beginning of all the different competition out there for the SCAR 16. You got the Blade 16, you got the Legion Pro 7, you got there's quite a few of them. And you go back to the beginning of the live stream if you want to go. If you want to have me go through all of them. But the biggest advantage to this laptop compared to most other laptops out there is the mini LED display. And it is kind of the star of the show. It's super bright and very high levels of contrast. And that's kind of the big thing. Like the blacks are super black, the darks are really dark, but we did run into problems with the HDR mode when we tried activating it during the display test. You can check that out. I believe a BIOS update is going to fix that problem. Overall, the display is gorgeous. The keyboard works well. The touchpad works well. This area of the keyboard, wrist rest, does not get that hot when you're gaming, so it's extremely comfortable to game for long periods of time. I love that. Now, in terms of premium features, we are missing some premium features. We do not have Windows Hello. This is a plastic overall chassis, right? It's not going to be as premium as what some of the Razer Blade 16 is, right? It's not going to be as premium as like the Alienware M16 because both of those have Windows Hello. Both of those have metal chassis. The Aorus 17X, also a metal chassis. There's a few different metal chassis that are going to be just a more premium, nicer experience all around, I think, than this one. Overall, I love this laptop. I can highly recommend this laptop. It's not quite the perfect laptop, but it's a great all-arounder and it's priced very competitively and it's a very compelling all-around package for the money. For as far as improvements go, I want to see a better webcam next year. I want to see Windows Hello on this guy. I want to see the speakers on this are pretty good. They could get a little better still. And so I would love to see a little better speakers. I would love to see a mechanical keyboard on this guy again. Other than that, I mean, it's hard to complain about anything else. The temperatures on this were surprisingly good in most titles, given the fact that it's a full power TDP unit in a 16-inch chassis. The fact that it can compete with 18-inch laptops at all is phenomenal. I think that's my wrap up for the most part. Like if you're looking for a gaming laptop that's going to be lighter weight, that's going to have cool RGB, and it's going to be very functional, there's only a few things to complain about with the Scar 16. And I think so many people are going to be super happy with the performance they get and the display and the keyboard and the mouse, everything. It's just a great all-around package. I can definitely highly recommend it. All right, I'll see you guys in the next live stream or a review video, whatever drops tomorrow, but there should be something for you guys to watch tomorrow either way. Peace.